She said when we were sitting on the parking lot, she's like,
I don't even have an office there anymore. Like after 6 months, 2 years ago, they were like, "Can we have your office back?"
So what are you doing? Same
No, I'm business development.
Okay.
So really and truthfully, I don't need an office. I'm one of those guys that's got a really annoying job. I can handle like taking people on things like make phone calls.
you're really good at that.
It's awful. It's the worst job I've ever done.
So would your office, I guess your office would have been in the old E.B. Williams?
Would have been. Yeah. I started there February 8th. And they literally just moved to the Chesapeake office.
Okay.
Like a couple of weeks before I got it. They were saying back still unpacking. You know where the Chesapeake Center is? It's Data Center Parkway. It's that little place back there in the Green Line.
Okay.
But if I go to an office like that, that's one of my people are that I work with. My estimate is to leave monthly. But I love it. That's the Thank God for Facebook. Actually halfway remember something. I knew that.
Yeah, I went there back in March, so it's been, I think I'm finally starting to get caught up because there was a lot of stuff when I got there, so starting to feel better about it.
Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy path for we both have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did it when I moved on. No, the chat is out.
Maybe send some subtle messages.
What does Stella want to do? Be a professional volleyball player?
She's in for a rude awakening, so she is not.
She didn't do something.
One vote shy of player of the year in the district. Anyway, to answer the question, she won $2 million since she was this old until 2016. She never changed her mind. She's very, you know, with a little thing. Then the longer it went on, I'm like, oh my God, maybe she's just serious. She was serious. I think somewhere in the last 6 months, the thought of what she started doing something. But she has to next time I walk.
Out of state league.
Make it stop. But it's just like, you know what, at this point, it doesn't matter. It's also expensive. It's, you know, it's almost like, oh, whatever. I don't know. That's a good thing.
That's good.
To answer your question, I have no idea. She said, sorry, these are the ones I want to look at.
SEC.
At least with which, thank God, well, we did go look at that, which he never really wanted to do. Alabama was kind of a surprise entry. It was the first school we found out that he got into, and it was the last week. Because broadcasting changed. They have a whole broadcasting network. Wow. It's
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday, July 8th, organizational meeting of the Southampton County School Board. I would like to call this meeting to order and open the floor for the nominations of board chair.
I would like to nominate Dr. Goodwin.
Dr. Goodwin has been nominated. Are there any more nominations? The floor is closed for nominations, so we'll vote. All in favor of Dr. Goodwin being the board chair, please make it known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Dr. Goodwin, on being voted again to the position of board chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much, colleagues, for your support. I will continue to strive to be the very best chairperson that I can be, so I appreciate your support and your confidence in me. So thank you for reappointing me to that position. So we're now down to election of the vice chair of the board.
In the absence of Dr. Goodwin, I would like to nominate Denise Bond.
We have a motion and a second to have Ms. Denise Blunt serve as vice chair. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Then the nomination is closed. All in favor of Denise Bond serving as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
next item is the election of the clerk. Ms. Artis has been doing the work of the clerk. So to better align our practice with the nomination, I am suggesting that we have Ms. Artis serve as clerk and then have the superintendent serve as deputy clerk. And that aligns with what we have been doing in the past. Ms. Artis does do the work. We have a motion by Mr. Scott, a second by Dr. Kendall. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So Ms. Laverne Artis is clerk and Dr. Shannon is deputy clerk. We'll let Ms. Bunn know that she's not vice chair. Congratulations. We're down now to the date, time, place of our regular board meetings. We've been meeting at 7 p.m. on the second Monday of each month in Southampton Commons area. Do we have a motion that we continue meeting at the same date, place, and time? Yes.
Because our meetings tend to run long, because our meetings tend to run long, is it possible to discuss a work session?
Well, we already do that. We do work sessions as needed.
But I mean, it could be open to the public. Personnel agenda and some of the presentations, just so that.
Board members, what's your pleasure? Meet twice per month on a regular schedule, or once per month as scheduled and special meetings as needed? Keep it as is. So the consensus is to keep the meeting place time as is. So all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Have one no, and the other yes. We need authorization for the vice chair to act in place of the chair. We have such a motion. Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Scott. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We need a motion for the deputy clerk to act in place of the clerk.
I move that we give the deputy clerk permission to act in place of the clerk.
We have a motion by Mr. Rogers, a second. That's second by Mr. Scott. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And Dr. Shannon, who are you designating to attend meetings in the absence of the superintendent?
Dr. Michelle.
Okay, so we need a motion to designate Dr. Blunt.
I move that we designate Dr. Michelle Blunt to attend meetings in the absence of the superintendent and to report to the superintendent.
Have a motion by Dr. Kendall.
Second.
A second by Mr. Rogers. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We need a motion to set the salaries of board members at $5,000 per year, with the chairperson to receive an additional $300 per year, and set the mileage for regular meetings at 32.5 cents per mile.
So we
Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Ms. Bunn. Was that Ms. Bunn? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We need a motion to authorize the chairperson and the superintendent to sign payrolls for school board employees.
so we
Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Ms. Bunn. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So with that said, the organizational meeting is adjourned. And I would like to call to order the regular meeting, the Monday, July 8th, 2024 regular meeting of the Southampton County School Board. We have 7 of our members present, so we do have a quorum. The agenda is in your board documents. Is there a board member who would like to add an item to the agenda?
Yes, Dr. Goodwin, I have 3 items I'd like to add to the agenda. The first would be to revisit the conversation that we had last month related to budget and proposing a 2x2 meeting with the Board of Supervisors to have regular budget updates.
So do you want to put that under like action items?
Yes, please.
So we add action item,
L.
Action item L, be Mr. Rogers, and you have another.
I do. I'd like to discuss the possible change of an organizational meeting date to January to align with the terms of the board. I know we talked about that previously. I don't think we ever followed up in a formal action discussion, so I would recommend that we add that as action item M.
Okay, and we can put that M. Okay.
And the last would likely go under matters from the board for consideration of a future action item, and that would be to discuss if the board has appetite to broadcast public comment period on the live stream.
Okay. That's under, that would be like.
That would be B under matters from the board, unless you see a different place.
I think it would be H maybe, under matters from the board. Okay. Under matters from the board, it's B. Okay. Under the closed meeting, I do need to add superintendent evaluation to the closed meeting, so that would be item H. Under closed meeting, would be the superintendent evaluation.
I'd like to add an item to close meeting as well, as personnel.
To the what? High school, middle school, staff, division personnel. Is there another board member who would like to add an item to the agenda? Then we do need to have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Move that we approve the agenda as amended with the addition of L and M under action items and H and I under closed session, as well as B under matters from the board.
I have a motion by Dr. Kendall,
Second.
a second by Mr. Rogers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. You have in your board documents the minutes of our regular meeting in June and 2 special meetings in June. So you have the agenda for the June 10th meeting, the June 13th meeting, and the June 27th meeting. The purpose of the June 13th meeting, if you remember, the Virginia Standards of Quality provide that each school board must require its members to participate annual and high-quality professional development, and these activities must include, but are not limited to, personnel policies and practices, evaluation of personnel, curriculum instruction, the use of data and planning and decision-making, current issues in education, board policy and development. So on June the 13th, we had a representative from PSBA to facilitate that board meeting. So those minutes are included minutes as presented.
I have one clarification in the June 10th meeting minutes.
Okay.
It's on page 2. It's the paragraph that starts with Mr. Joshua Bowers. And it looks like, I think that we were talking about the two buildings, and it looks like it reads right into the second option was chosen to accommodate a weight room and after hours community. That was speaking about the building here at the high school, and it reads like it's the building, the parent community center building that's by the school board office.
What paragraph is that, Mr. Rogers?
The
Mr. Joshua now provide an update on the parent community center. That paragraph you're talking about.
yes.
Okay, the roof collapse, significant floor damage, that paragraph.
Yep, and then it goes into Mr. Bowers will share drawings with contractors by the end of this month, and then we transition to discussion about the building that will be here at the high school when it says the second option was chosen to accommodate the weight room.
Okay, so we need to add something to indicate that that pertains to the health,
Yes, that was where I was looking for the health and resource building.
what's it called, the health building, student health building.
So maybe we just need a sentence prior to that saying that Mr. Bowers then discussed the student health center so that we know that that goes along.
Okay. Any other clarifications needed? So then we do need a motion to approve the minutes, all 3 sets of minutes as corrected or as clarified.
Make a motion, we approve 3 minutes with the necessary additions.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Scott. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We do not have any recognitions for tonight. So then that brings us down to public comment period. Although Virginia law does not require us to hold a public comment period, the Southampton County School Board chooses to do so because we believe it's important for us to hear from our community members. We value input and recognize the importance of receiving public input on issues affecting the education of children in our county. The public comment period is a time for board members to listen to the views and concerns of individuals regarding Southampton County Public Schools. Therefore, please note that board members will not respond to comments or answer questions during the public comment period. We also ask that you respectfully follow several guidelines in order to speak. You should have signed up in the lobby area prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker has a time limit of 3 minutes, and that's 3 minutes per speaker. A speaker may not yield or give his or her speaking time to another. We do have a visible timer to help us keep up with the time. Speakers should address their comments to the board, not to the superintendent or to other audience members. And we also ask that audience members refrain from comments and demonstrations such as blowing, hissing, or clapping. So I will call up the speakers in the order in which they signed up. So the first speaker is Riley Turner. building of the parent center. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Bauer cannot attend because of the recent tropical storm. And that storm has impacted his travels, but Mr. Bell does have some information from Mr. Bauer.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Goodwin, board. Yes, Friday afternoon, I got a message from Mr. Bauer. He fallen all over himself, apologizing that they lost power, they have no water, they're stuck. He couldn't get a flight until today about 4 o'clock to get back to Virginia. So he sent this, I kind of was able to piece it together. He had to send a PDF, so I got it put together to put no PowerPoint for you guys here. So the two projects that we've been working on, project number one, the Community Parent Resource Center, the school board office, the reconstruction there. Floor plans pretty much remain the same. One adjustment that you talked about last time you guys gave the approval for was laying or pouring a concrete floor. So the dotted line was the original floor, and it drops down to show the new poured concrete floor where that floor will be at the Parent Resource Center. Now, this is ready to go out for RFP, but we do have to have a discussion about putting some options in that RFP. This was a rendering. They came out with a drone probably about 2 weeks ago. Take some aerial shots, take a look at the roof. As you can see, all right, the building itself, as you can see the roof on this one has a metal roof on it, and that is one of the things we're going to have to discuss and putting an option in. Because, all right, so the original project budget was $1 million, and right now, if we taking it to the high side of all the possible items, it comes up to 1.278, bringing us just over that projected budget. But he does have a few items in there that can take us a few dollars closer to our budgeted amount. And one of those, like I said, was the roof, to install asphalt shingles rather than the metal roof, changing some interior design pieces, the acoustical tile, taking out one of the restrooms, and then the kitchenette. I think looking at the design of the building, we can put in definitely the option in the RFP for the roofing, allow the design build phase to give us an option both ways, because with their projections, they're not giving us a hard and fast number of what we're looking at. So we allow Crabtree to build that RFP to have an option in there for the bidders or the offerers to build the building with either a metal roof or with that the shingles installed. We can see how we land that way. The acoustical tile and the one toilet, I think we can make and manage with that, with eliminating those. But the kitchenette piece, I think that would keeps it together as a functioning office to have that for our staff in there. So that would be my recommendation to take to Mr. Bauer to put the options in for the roof, and then to eliminate the tile, one restroom, but keep the kitchenette. So we would possibly get down, to 70-some thousand, 73.3 off of that price to get us closer to the $1 million.
Well, I think the board has emphasized we have a budget and it needs to come in within the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
But what was the thinking of other board members?
Yeah, I agree, Dr. Woodman. With taking a cut to the appropriation that we received for this year and already dealing with a shortfall, there's not a $200,000 buffer anywhere that we can supplement that. So I think there's got to be a focus on it. If they're going to take it out to bid, I think it's important that with taking it out to bid, we understand that there's a budget for the project and that we're not going to be able to move forward if we get bids in that are over $1 million.
Comments from other board members?
What type of flooring is supposed to be put down?
I'm not positive on the actual part. I believe it's just a tile floor. It's not anything extravagant.
Not carpeted?
Not carpeted.
My concern with taking out the acoustical tiles then is that building is going to be very loud, with only the tile floor. So if we can include that and still be under budget, then.
And I do really apologize that Mr. Bauer is not here to answer a little more informatively than I can. these things, but, he
Yeah,
should be back.
I think as long as you convey to him that we have two concerns, it needs to be on schedule and within budget.
Yes, ma'am.
So whether you take out acoustic tile, a toilet in the kitchen, that's fine. But it needs to be on time and on budget.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
And I agree with all three of the things that they have mentioned. They're saying, yeah, I think the building will be perfectly functional without it, and hopefully the roof will then save us a lot more as well.
Yes, ma'am. All right, and moving on to the student health and education building here at the high school. To go back real quick, working with the board, you guys decided that this would be the best location. It was a concerted, what's what we're looking for here, consolidated decision that would be the best location for it to make it the most centralized. Again, with the floor plan of the building, with the large multi-purpose area to allow for basketball and volleyball, the additional weight room going on, and then the existing pieces that we had before with the educational spaces, the restrooms, and the concession stand area. This is their rendering of the space. This is a very large building, and I know after last meeting again, it was emphasized to get this as close to, if not under budget as possible. So now we are faced with this part, because doing those additions, doing the extension going high, it really brought us way over budget. And so the recommendations that he had on here, and I know some of it was to give it the footprint, but not finish it out. That way down the line, if we're able to, we can add on and do some of those things. But these five subtractions here equal $664,000. So to take that off of that, we're still getting to that $400,000 where we need to continue to pick at it and get us back to the budget area. And we still are exploring some additional funding to go with this to make it as best as we can. But again, I will take back to him, yeah, we've got to be on budget and on time.
What's actually number 5 say?
And it's the heating and ventilation system, and I think this is part of him being off. We couldn't get, because he sent us as a PDF, so that logo on the bottom right kind of cut it off. Where it's just, the heating and ventilation is only in the toilet room, that it's not throughout the building. So we're not putting air conditioning throughout the entire building. We can still have it where it's able to function in the wintertime and have that, but the heating and air conditioning would only be the restrooms, heating throughout the rest, but not air conditioning in the rest of the building.
It feels to me like we are trying to do two projects with enough money to do one well. And I'm not familiar with the purposes around the funding or the strings around the funding, but we've got right now in front of us, this building is projected to cost the total amount of money we have available for 2 projects. And I fear, as we trim out things, particularly things like heating and ventilation for everything except for the toilet area, you make that space potentially unusable for what we need to use it for during the winter months and as we get into late spring or early fall when we're heading back to school. So I just don't know that we'll reasonably be able to move forward with both of these projects being so far over budget. It worries me that we're going to be in a position where we can't say yes.
And I think my thinking is that when we talked about the student health center, we came, having the taller building and having the those are all additions, but we always said that we could go back to the original building, which was not as tall and which did not have, the weight room that was a $750,000 price tag. So I think we can have a fully functional building that won't be quite as big, like it wouldn't have the regulation size basketball court, but it would still be a fully functional building that we talked about initially, that comes in again on time and within budget. So it looks like, our dream building that we had looked at might not be practical. So he really needs to go back and look at the original, I think, he needs to go back and look at the original plan, which was to have a, slightly smaller building, a slightly shorter building with a different kind of roof that could meet 95% of what the building was intended to do.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So you're saying that heating and ventilation would only be for the toilet room, but are we having classrooms, a few classrooms in there?
Right, so the air conditioning part, from what I understand, just like I said, this was, I wish Josh was here. Just need to be able to answer this straight away. But what I understand from what I'm taking from this is it's the heating and the air conditioning, like cut-ins would only be in the bathrooms. The heating would maintain the rest of the spaces.
But we know that's not functional. So they have this large structure that has no heating and air.
No, it would have heat throughout the entire building, but there would be air conditioning and ventilation, the vents just in the restrooms.
What would you do on a day like today?
On a day like today where it's, well, it would have, the roll-up doors on the end, to increase airflow throughout the space to be able to utilize.
For me, taking out heating and air is not a practical solution, but I don't know for other people.
One thing I want us to consider is if we've got additional funding options, can we get those options figured out in time and not just say, yeah, we can afford to do the shell with this and then have additional funding options that could come back in and do it. Because of course the shell, it's really the shell is the important part, because we can't go back and raise the roof later. And we can't, some of the things that would have to happen to then make it functional, or some of the things we could for the community to be able to use it for basketball and different things. The shell is what's going to be so important, knowing that these other pieces could interact.
That makes sense, yeah. Tell them being on schedule is important too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Down to action items. So the first action item is the payment of bills, Dr. Shannon.
I haven't seen Joy all day, but we have Ms. Joy Carr, Director of Finance, who will present that, make a presentation to the board. Also, the presentation back here.
Good evening, all present tonight. If you'll notice, I don't have a financial report for you tonight because actually, over the summer months, we continue to pay invoices that belong to the previous school year. So we will be, when you look at your bill list over the next month or even into August, you're going to see that we're paying invoices from the previous school year. So therefore, we don't have a financial report for June tonight. But we do have the bill list that has been attached to the agenda for your approval tonight.
Is it reasonable, so I understand that we're paying bills. I think it would be beneficial for the board to continue to see that pacing that we have all year, to know what's left in expenditures and know that that won't be finalized until later on. So I would ask that we continue to get that report throughout the summer months to make sure that we're tracking how the previous fiscal year went as well as what will start now our new fiscal year. But I will make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Motion by Mr. Rogers.
Second.
A second by Mr. Smith to pay the bills as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
We have several policies that are included for a second read. So Dr. Shannon will present those and will give us more information.
Actually, our team members will make the presentations. Ms. Kelly Gillette is going to do a short presentation on personal communication device pouch policy. And as Dr. Lewis stated, there was a first read at the last board meeting.
Good evening. So I know you've read the Southern policy, and I know there were some questions last month about the usage and the pouches. And I did contact the gentleman from Yoder and got his information about how he sees other school divisions using the Yoder pouch and magnetic device. So he recommends that students keep the pouches with them 24/7. He said that it's part of the responsibility of the student, being especially since we have one-to-one devices anyway, that students are supposed to keep up with 24/7. When they come through the doors, whether they're coming from car or from bus, they can come in and they take out their iPads because they can't go through the metal detector. They take out the iPad, they take out the Yoder pouch, and they put their phone inside the pouch. And when they go to pick up their iPad and their pouch, the person handing it to them can see that the pouch is locked. He did say the first week or so, it may take a little bit longer. He said, but once they get into the routine of it, it will take no time at all. He said, especially in the afternoons when the kids have not had their phones all day, they're going to be ready to get those phones out, so that will be no problem. And this is what one of the magnetic devices looks like. This one is just one that sits down on the table. They do have wall mounts, and they also have handheld device mounts that they can carry around with it as well. So what they do is, here's the pouch unlocked, and it's large enough. When I pass it around, you're going to see that it says XL. They used to sell it in small, medium, large, extra large. He said that everybody wanted the extra large, so now they only do extra large because it's the only size that they have. So you place your phone in the pouch, close it, push the button, and it's locked. And they can't get in it, at all. And at the end of the day, they just walk by, stick it on, and it's unlocked. So that's all they have to do. Now, it comes with, I've discussed with security and, because they have the students coming out, in and out as well. And Yoder does provide training for all staff. So the use of the pouch and the use of the magnetic device, so everybody will be trained using the device. And we also, I wanted to share with you, some of the questions were last week about consequences and things like that. So all of the pouches will be property of Southampton County Public Schools. The pouch itself will have a number on it and the child's name, if you choose to go that way. And the child will be responsible for that pouch 24/7, even though it belongs to us. If the pouch is destroyed, lost, then the student is responsible for buying another pouch to use. If the pouch is destroyed, tampered with, damaged, again, the student will be responsible for replacing that pouch. If they forget their pouch at home, we will have some learner pouches, but it won't be an everyday thing. You only use the learner pouch, a certain amount of time before if you lost it, you need to replace it. One of the reasons why we wanted to keep the pouches with the students 24/7 is because it's a lot of time to have the students pick up their pouches, put the pouches in, take them around at the end of the day, collect all the pouches, put them out, back to where they were picked up in the morning. Plus, if we have the pouches with us during the school day, we're responsible for the phones. So if they go in the pouch one way, come out the pouch another way, then the damage, there's thousands of dollars for the cell phones. So the recommendation is for students to keep their pouches with them 24/7. If a student does not use the pouch or is caught playing with the pouch, then they would get a warning, a written warning. A second time, it would be a phone call and a conference with the parent, and the phone would be kept in the office. Third time, they wouldn't have phone privileges at all. They wouldn't be allowed to bring the phone to school at all, or it would be kept in the office, for a parent to come pick up. It is also very encouraged that when we roll out this policy and have these pouches, that we're all on the same page, we're all consistent, that these are the rules for the pouches, these are the rules for the cell phones, everybody's under the same umbrella, and this is the way it is, and it's going to happen for every single student.
I think, let's stop there, because I think that we need, as a board, we need to look at the policy and not so much of right now in the process that you're going to use. So the policy that we're looking at has to do with the use of couches, and Dr. Shannon can probably address why we're going to do that in the policy that she's recommending that we adopt, and then we can go back to how we're gonna implement it. But right now, I think we just need to concentrate on the policy, and then we can talk about implementation.
And as I stated, last week, last month, there has been significant, distractions in the classroom by the use of just cell phones. You know, a number of our teachers are spending the majority of their instructional time using cell phones. And in addition to students just having cell phones out during instructional time, sometimes students are utilizing those phones to, seek answers or assistance with assignments that they should not be seeking during that particular time. So one of the things that we want to do is just minimize the classroom distractions. And I believe that by allowing students to bring their phones to school if they so choose, but to not be able to access the phone during the day is going to aid us in minimizing those distractions. And I also think that it's going to increase the time of task as well as increase the quality instructional time. I really believe we're going to see a difference in classroom instruction if we can remove those cell phones. Again, I stated that I was a proponent for cell phones. You know, in 2016, we did not have one-to-one devices. And so I was an advocate for us utilizing the cell phones as instructional devices or tools. However, since COVID, as well as some of the other hard work of our technology department, Mr. Hatch and others, we now have one-to-one devices in our school division. And because we have one-to-one devices, we no longer need students to use their personal cell phones as instructional tools because we have the iPads. So because of that, I'm asking that our students be able to utilize the Yoga system and the Yoga system and put the phones away throughout the day, and then have access to them after school. And if there's an emergency, a parent needs to call, they'll do like they used to do in the old days, they'll just call the office, and the office will handle whatever emergency or concern that we have.
Because it sounds to me that what we're proposing, the policy says that just like we issue students their devices, now we're going to issue students a cell phone pouch. So really it's a similar process when you hand out the iPads, that now in addition to an iPad, the student will receive a cell phone pouch. And that during the day, the student will be expected to keep the cell phone in the pouch, and there's some consequences if students don't follow the rules, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And also, I'm sorry, Dr. Bill.
At the policy, like I said, the pouch would be the property of Southampton County Public Schools. Just like students are assigned an iPad, students will now be assigned, these are middle and high school students, middle and high school students will now be assigned a cell phone pouch. Just like with iPads, if the cell phone pouch is lost or damaged, then it will be the responsibility of the family to pay for the replacement. We've all read reports, and we've seen the reports that talk about the impact that media is having on students and the distraction caused by social media, and how cell phones and social media distract students in school. So we've all read and seen that kind of stuff. So what's your thinking about the policy, not necessarily the procedure, but the policy of implementing cell phone pouches?
I think it's a good idea. I agree that there's such a distraction, but there are a couple of things in the policy that I think we need to look at. Under the definition of a device, limited to, but like the wireless headphones, if you have the Beats or something like that, those are not gonna fit in that. So if we're gonna include wireless headphones in the list, I think we need to, I think the wireless headphones should probably be taken out, because otherwise you have to explain which ones, and, you know, because the big ones, like the Bose and the Beats won't fit in that pouch.
They bring those to school.
Yeah.
Or so do we say wireless headphones that are small enough to fit inside a younger pouch?
Right.
Because then if you're gonna bring your AirPods to school,
Right. And
they would work, but not your Beats.
right, but then, so then we put in there that if it doesn't fit in the pouch, you can't bring it at all?
Yes.
Okay. And that's, yeah, I mean, I think we need a
So
little more
just clarify
clarification in
that wireless devices that will not fit in the pouch will not be allowed in the school.
And I also, well, then in the second paragraph, under procedures, it says elementary students will retain possession inside of their homeroom class. But we're only doing middle and high school, or?
Only middle and high, we're not doing it for elementary starting
Okay,
off.
so then can we take that sentence out?
Yes,
of
sure.
elementary students? The only other thing, if they're responsible like they are for their laptops, I think that in the consequences, we need to make sure that it's spelled out that some of those consequences will have another section of those consequences for not bringing them with you. Because middle and high school students are not going to forget it. They are going to not want to use it and conveniently not have it with them. So I think we need to spell out in those consequences.
So perhaps we put the consequences for violating the division expectation, including not bringing the cell phone pouch. So it's really just including, because the consequences can be the same.
Right.
It's just saying consequences for violating the division expectation, including not bringing the pouch to school.
Yeah, I just think that needs to be spelled out so that there's no.
Yeah, just including not bringing, you know, so if you don't have it, that's a violation.
Yeah. Hopefully that will cut down on the number of phoners every day.
Any other thoughts about the policy?
I'm in support of policy.
Say again, Mr. Scott.
I'm in support of policy.
Okay.
I see both sides, and I support the decision, but I do have a concern from me too. For those times when there have been emergencies in school, and the office didn't work, and children actually were the ones who sent information. If the teacher perhaps does not have her cell phone in class, that's a long reach, but it has happened. Students have been the ones who have notified that they're missing. I'm not talking about Southampton, I'm talking about here. That's the concern in the world that we live in now. And for the times when, their iPads are not connected and their phone would have it, we don't want them to have more work at home. We want to make sure that if there's a problem with technology at school, that assignment or that classwork will be extended rather than them having to do some extra work at home. So oftentimes students have used their own personal devices when they're iPads.
So so I guess what you're saying, ensure that they have a working device, not including their cell phones.
They have the phone and iPads already.
Okay. So was that a motion, Mr. Scott? So we have a motion by Mr. Scott, do we have a second? A second by Dr. Tyndall to approve the personal communication device pouch policy with the amendments noted.
I have, some discussion around it. Concerned, I think the price tag quoted last month was between $30,000 and $40,000. And so I'm concerned if we approve this policy now and we don't have a line item in the budget to purchase them, then we're going to put ourselves in violation of our own policy.
Well, let me stop you there, because I don't think we'll be in violation of our policy, because we don't need a line item that says cell phone pouch devices. We just, I mean, because.
It does, because it obligates us to purchase a pouch for them to implement the policy, so.
Right, and I guess what I'm saying to you is that there is money in the budget, because we're talking about these cell phone pouches being in the same category as iPads and any other device that we issue students, so we don't have to have a separate line item in the budget to purchase these cell phone devices. So it's already, it can be included in a line item that already exists.
It could, but those funds should already be obligated for expenses that we have this year, as I understood the budget. And we're already dealing with
But I think
a
you
number
didn't
of
understand
custom
the budget,
positions.
you thought that all the funds had been expended for the year.
$30,000 to $40,000 is a teaching position.
But that's a different line item.
It is, but when you're looking at a budget cut, you could easily request a reappropriation towards a personnel item instead of spending $30,000 to $40,000 that we don't have on this. I mean, I think the policy's smart. I think that, my comments are not that the policy is off base, but I don't think that we should be moving forward with something of this nature when we have a number of other deficiencies in our budget.
Any other discussion on the motion? We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion?
If we approve this now, so like what Mr. Rogers was saying, do we have to purchase these, immediately for use, or?
The plan, as I understand, is for us to implement the policy in the fall 2024 semester. Am I correct, Dr. Shannon?
Yes.
So our plan is to implement this in the fall, yes. So, because we believe strongly that student distractions cause poor student performance. So if we're looking at a connection between distraction and student performance, then yes, this is a priority. So it would be implemented in the fall. So we have a motion, have a second. Any other discussion on the motion? So then, could we have a roll call vote? Yeah.
Ms. Denise Bud,
Yes.
okay. Mr. Christopher Smith,
Yes.
this is Hobbs. Yes. She gave me a list with the old dates on it. Dr. Tindall,
Yes.
Mr. Scott, Mr. Rogers,
No.
Yes. So what's the vote? 6-1, so we have approved the cell phone, the personal communication device policy, as presented with the plan to implement it in the fall of 2024.
And Dr. Cohen, Jessica will lead this with you all tonight to look at it. For the students that have the medical emergencies, they have a yonder pouch with them as well. It's not locked, it just has the Velcro on it, so they can open it needed to access their phones for medical emergencies. And of course, those students would have to have a written note from a doctor to be able to use the medical pouch.
So the next policy that that is here for a second read tonight is the, policy concerning remediation, promotion, and retention. Dr. Shannon?
yes ma'am. Ms. Gillette actually has a short presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. So she's still at the podium and she'll make that PowerPoint presentation regarding that policy.
So looking at the background with the remediation, promotion, and retention policy for Southampton County Schools, provides a comprehensive framework to ensure student success and mastery of academic standards. The policies aim to provide structured support to ensure students meet academic standards, successfully progress their grade levels, and are well prepared for crucial educational challenges. I'm not gonna read all this to you, but some of the key components from the policy included the remediation policy, the remediation requirements, the reporting and communication, the segregation results, and also the promotion and retention policy. So when we looked at the remediation recovery program, any student that's going to retake an SOL must participate in at least one form of remediation for a minimum number of hours as determined by the VDOE, including but not limited to the school remediation in school, or remediation such as on Saturdays or after school remediation. SCPS shall require any student who fails any standards of learning assessment for the relevant grade level in grades 3 through 8 to attend summer school program or participate in another form of approved remediation. And also we have policies for promotion and remediation for elementary, middle, and high. Elementary and middle are the same. They must pass reading and math and at least history or science. And then with the high school, you'll see that to be promoted to the 10th grade, they must have 6 or more credits. To be promoted to 11th grade, they must have 12 or more credits and have 2 or more verified credits. To enter 12th grade, you have to have 18 or more credits and have 3 or more verified credits. There's a total of 5 verified credits.
Shane, want to elaborate on any of this?
We just want to ensure that students that are taking the SOL, that they have appropriate remediation and that it is required. So if the student says they don't want to stay after school, and we can provide that help for them, that it is a requirement that they receive that help.
Ms. Gillette, I have a question about the remediation, the section at the bottom of the first page.
Yes.
Says that they would attend a summer school program or participate in another form of approved remediation. Are any of those other forms, would any of those be held during the day, or would all of them be summer or after school?
No, we have in-school remediation as well.
Okay.
Depending on the school and their needs, some of it could be pushing the schedule back, making it look like a half a day, or shortening the periods to have that time for remediation.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that, that we weren't encumbering other time for all of the students. So, thank you.
I just have a really small language tweak in its middle, under the middle school section. It just says a Southampton County elementary student in my version, so I don't know if there's another version. It just needs to be changed to middle school.
I'm not gonna, sorry.
No, I would have copied and pasted the paragraphs, and I probably would.
Yeah, in middle school, you got some elementary. For me,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't disagree with the concept or the idea, but I find it confusing. Maybe discuss. Because I think what we're trying to say is that students who fail in SOL will be required to participate in remediation before they can. Right? Is that the gist of this?
No,
That students
no.
who fail in SOL will be required to participate in remediation.
Yes, ma'am. But it does not affect their moving to the next grade level in 3 through 8.
Is everybody else clear?
I understand that part, but should we maybe separate it into 2 different policies? One that's the remediation recovery program, and then one that's just the
Maybe that's it.
Because I think that's where, like, when you have them both together like that, then,
So,
right,
right.
then people, right, might assume that it's talking about retention as well.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I think that's where I understand what you're trying to do, but yeah, I think we had a policy on remediation
Okay,
and then a policy on retention. And we could label them as such.
Well, you could, yeah, because you could even put promotion and retention in that, in the same one, so that there were two. One remediation and then one promotion and
so
retention.
one remediation policy and the other promotion and retention. Just have them separate.
Yeah, and I think that would.
And I think the piece I'm missing is the remediation before. We need a policy about what's going to happen so that some children can be saved before this point if there's remediation that's already planned. And I know we already do remediation, but if there's a policy for it, then everybody knows that if, say, the end of the first quarter, well, this is high school, middle school, but at a certain point in that 9 weeks period, what are we gonna do if Johnny doesn't meet, it could be whatever assessment they can give. We wanna catch them before they get to the end of the grade of that quarter.
One of the things we do with that is we have at the 4.5 week mark, instead of sending out, when they send out report cards and having conferences then, at the 4.5 week, that's when we have parent-teacher conferences. We don't wait till the end of the 9 weeks. We send letters and information to the parents.
So in that letter, are you saying, is there a policy that your child will begin remediation?
No, this does not say that in there.
And I would like for us to catch it before it gets to.
And I think we have some processes in place, and I think where I get nervous about saying we need a policy that says it is you box yourself in. Your processes you can look at and say, our process is we do this at 4.5 weeks, and this is offered. But when you start to drill it down, you lose your leeway in being able to say, we looked at the data, and this is really our issue right now, so let's address this. Some of it is you got to be able to decide the data all the year and make sure that you're doing what needs to be based on what's happening.
I understand that, but I just feel like there are so many children who fall. So, whatever the board votes on, I'm good, but I just want to point out that we're missing children.
And
Because we don't mandate.
And some of those things are things when we do our planning meetings, we'll get together and do year-long planning meetings where we go over mission vision, what we're planning for next year, what things we want to see added. And that would be a good topic to have at that point to say, what is our process going to be to remediate early?
To make sure that I understand, so are you thinking, like, in addition to where it says that you require these fails in SOL, that there should be even another paragraph that says that we will require it based on whatever not in such specifics that like Ms. Bunn said, that we box ourselves in, but that we word it somehow based on right, or
benchmark assessment, whatever it is,
right.
along the way. Because they are the indicators that children struggle.
Right.
Indicators might be the word you're looking for.
Yeah,
They are the indicators that children struggle.
Even observational data, something that just speaks to everything that we already do, but that we're putting in there that we're also requiring students who are not meeting benchmarks goals throughout the year will also be required to attend verification. Because then the schools can say, okay, well, this is what we mean by benchmark, meeting the benchmark, or this is what we mean by being on track, or however you word it. Is that?
At some point in time, there will be a need for student aside from just developing the policies, we got to develop how we want to present this.
Yes,
So,
community buy-in.
so I think I hear us saying a couple of things, I think, is that if we talk about, student remediation, and what we're saying is that we will require students who fail an SOL assessment to participate in remediation. That's the remediation part.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just trying to sort of summarize, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so that's what we're saying. And then we're saying remediation can take several formats. Remediation could be summer school, before school tutoring, after school tutoring, you know. So I think that's what we're saying for remediation, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just think we need to clearly say that. Our policy should simply read, Southampton County Public Schools will require any student who fails a standard of learning assessment to participate in an approved form of remediation. Remediation can be in the form of blank, 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 and blank. So I think, and maybe you can just have a one page or something to go with this to sort of simplify what you're talking about. And then, then the other part of the policy is something about keeping the records, but I don't know if that's the policy or the procedure. Is our policy simply to say that students will be required to participate in remediation if they fail an SOL? What do you tell Dr. Shankar, elaborate on what it is you're trying to get us to approve?
What we're trying to do is just to ensure that, first of all, remediation does take place and that children are not able to opt out of the remediation, by default. So, like we had Saturday school, there were a number of kids who should have been there. They didn't come. So we want a policy that has, some teeth so that when we say, because of SOL score, or as Ms. Hawes said, because of this particular benchmark data, or because of this particular measure, or what have you, whatever we decide, this child needs to participate in remediation. And that it's not optional for that child to participate in remediation. Because what happens a lot of times is the kids who need to be there are the ones who are at home, and the ones who don't need to show up are the ones who wouldn't participate. So we're just asking the board for, permission to be able to require students to participate in remediation. And it was based on SOL data for high school, but also us looking at other early, indicators or warning signs. And we can list what those early indicators or warning signs may be.
I like what Dr. Goodwin was saying about just the one sentence kind of thing, but I agree with Ms. Hobbs. I think it needs to be, will require any student who fails any of the standards of learning assessments, blah, 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 or does not meet the guidelines or whatever for meeting benchmarks throughout the year. And I think we need to be really careful about making sure that it doesn't look like we are requiring a student to either stay after school or come on a Saturday. That we are offering the opportunity during the school day somehow. And that we're not saying you have to be here on a Saturday.
Well, is it something wrong with them being required to stay after school?
Well, if they play a sport or they
Okay,
do something, anything like that, just to,
But aren't we saying that we're gonna give you options? We're saying that
Right,
you gotta participate in remediation. It could be before school, after school, Saturday school, during school, but you gotta pick one.
right, that's what I'm saying, just that it needs to read like, these are the options and not that we're saying you have to stay after school or you have to come on a Saturday.
But now, I honestly think that it may be a time when they do need to come at another time, and I know
my nephews, for example, both struggle and community, and having to go to school on a Saturday would be the end of the world to them. It would just be, it would make them not want to be at school even more, and that's what I want to make sure they work.
Maybe they can come early or stay late, you know.
I know, but I don't think that as a board, we can require parents to make their child attend outside of the regular school day.
And we're not saying we're making you do it, we're saying if you want to go to the next grade, you will do it. You know, so whether you want to come before school, after school, Saturday, but there will be some approved forms of remediation, and you got to participate in one in order to go to the next grade, is how I'm reading this.
Right.
But there will be some options.
But one of the choices has to be only during the day.
But it doesn't.
It does. We cannot tell citizens that they have to send their child on a Saturday or that they have to bring the child before and after school.
Yes, we can. If they want that child to go to the next grade.
No, we can't. It is our responsibility to teach those kids within the parameter of the school day and the school calendar. Not to make a child who struggles come to school outside of that amount of time.
Yeah, and I disagree. You know, because I think the school day, again, might not allow ample time to do the remediation, so.
Then we need to figure out.
So, you know, how can you, so, because if you take the child, if you do it during the school day, then the child's gonna have to give up something during the school day. So, so all of your friends are going to whatever, and I don't know, I just think the parents need, I believe in giving parents options, and I think that the parents need to decide which option is best for their children.
Right.
And one of those options ought to be before school, after school, Saturday school.
And I think that those are perfectly viable options. What I don't want to say is that we can't teach your child during the school day, so now you have to give up time, and your child has to give up time that would be outside of the school day or outside of the school week to come in and do this.
Only if you want your child to catch up.
Kids but that's our job to do during the school day. You can't,
If
a child that has fallen behind for whatever reason, whether they're struggling, they were just had a 504 plan and you're trying to catch up, those students already don't like coming to school because they already know that they're behind. They're sitting in the class where they know they're not doing as well, and now you're gonna say, oh, and now you have to stay at school for 2 more hours, or you have to give up your Saturday to come in just so that you can pass to the next grade level. That's not right to do to a kid.
Okay.
Is there
So,
somewhere we can find out whether we are in our guideline or is allowed to do this?
There's a policy reference.
We need to look at the policy.
This reference, the Code of Virginia's reference.
And again, I think that's where options come into play, because a student that's sitting in a classroom and feels like they're behind and feels that pressure within the classroom, maybe they would do better in a smaller before school or after school tutoring group. So I think it comes down to choices again. It just needs to be offered at multiple times and not necessarily used as a punishment. More of a, we're willing to go the extra mile for your child. We're willing to give up our time before school or our time after school. And again, that's going to vary by child and by parent what their preference is, so we just have to give options. I think the policy, we don't have to drill down and specify all these things in a policy. The policy, I think, just simply needs to say that remediation will be offered in multiple formats, and in order to move forward, that you would have, it's mandatory, whatever. Just a simple policy, and then you can do the process, because then if the process doesn't work, you can easily adjust your process. Policy, you have to come back to the board, and you have to, there's so many more steps to it, so you don't want to box yourself in. You want to understand the gist of what we're trying to do here is make it mandatory, because right now some of the students that may need it we're not reaching.
Right, so truly, I know this is the second read, but my thinking is that there's a simple way to say what Ms. Bunn just said, because at the policy level, we're just saying students have to participate in remediation if they fail an SOL, and that several options will be available. That's all the policy needs to say.
a certain amount of remediation that we do provide.
in school.
Yes.
But I will say it's disruptive.
I understand.
Yeah, it's very disruptive and sometimes
And then
things
there's
are
another,
not,
yes,
that's right.
yes, ma'am, I understand completely. I've been
And
involved-
it's not-
Yes, I've been involved in that process, but what I'm saying is that covers the part that, Dr. Tyndall is talking about. They are receiving, it's not like they're not receiving remediation in school, but these are children who are still not meeting the mark. They still need assistance.
Yeah, so in high school, they have to have those 5 verified credits. If they do not participate in the remediation, and they continue to take the test and not getting any, get a higher score. So we need them to have the remediation. We have to have something with each to make them responsible for, you have to study. This is your responsibility, as an individual to participate in the remediation.
So can we agree just by consensus to have this come back to us next month as 2 concise policies? Would you agree to that, board members, to have this come back to us again next month? Or you want to vote on what we have here? We've got 2 options and we just need a motion to go in one direction or the other. We can either approve the policy as presented, or we can do a motion to have the policy simplified and clarified and brought back to us next month.
I make a motion that we have a policy simplified.
So we have a motion by Mr. John, a second by Mr. Smith, that we will revisit the policy on remediation, promotion, and retention next month. And hopefully we'll just come with a more concise policy that doesn't mix the process with the policy.
And it might be worth us also just looking at what our code of conduct already says about student responsibility for their academics, and making sure that there's a proper amount of responsibility listed in that code of conduct that says, that they're expected to put in the extra work to participate in remediation programs and things like that as recommended by the school district. I think we just want to make sure there's a balance there between whatever we would do policy-wise and putting it in the code of conduct, because that's the student responsibility and parent responsibility.
So we're down to the next policy is the attendance and makeup work policy. Jen?
Yes, ma'am, Dr. Fun is our custodian, and, she has spearheaded the attendance policy through y'all here, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Good evening, Dr. Goodwin, Mr. Smith, members of the board, Dr. Shannon. I stand before you to address the policy draft that you reviewed during the June board meeting, and to entertain any questions or concerns that you may have. You will find that this proposed policy addresses goals 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. These are related to our school board goals 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. In addition to that, this proposed policy is in compliance and in alignment with Code of Virginia 22.1-254. If you would like to have the electronic version of this, you can find it at the link that I provided. Of course, you can't click on it now, but I would be glad to provide it with you. To sum up the proposed policy, you will find that the proposed policy addresses attendance specific to grade level. It addresses ramifications for truancy. It holds parents and students accountable. It addresses makeup work. There's also emphasis placed on student attendance division-wide, and it also addresses meeting the requirements for accreditation. Features of the proposed plan include, it is goal-oriented, and it emphasizes accountability. It is supportive of stakeholders. as attendance will be closely monitored. There is analysis of attendance data. There's also stakeholder support, empowerment, and personalization, incentives, parent collaboration and engagement. Also, there's a sense of fostering an interactive and positive school climate. Overall, the proposed policy is strategic, inclusive, culturally relevant, and it is in alignment with the All-In Virginia Plan. The proposal, or the proposed policy, is five-pronged, framed to improve student attendance and to reduce chronic absenteeism with fidelity, using an inclusive team approach. Best practices, student empowerment, strengthening stakeholder confidence, promoting accountability, and providing new opportunities for school and home partnership. In the outline that you received in your packet, it was broken down by grade level in the first column. The second column is the current policy. The proposed attendance policy is outlined in the third column, and the last column is a comparison snippet. So your packet was a compare and contrast document to allow you.
I don't have that.
No, I don't either.
I've got the draft of the policy under this item, but I don't have anything else.
Do you have do you have to display?
We can click on the link, yes.
Okay, all right.
So you should have something that says policy draft. SCPS, attendance, makeup policy.
No, all we have is policy policy attendance and makeup work.
We just have just the policy.
Okay, we can, project that, or if you allow me to make copies of this, then we can,
Well, two things I think, Dr. Blunt. I think that it would be good if we, could make, copies of this available. But the second thing is, I would like to see this come back to the board next month, written up in the format of a policy, so that it looks like a policy. I appreciate what you have here, because to me, you've given the information here that I was asking for a few minutes ago, so it's all here. But I would like to see this come back written as, in the format of a policy, so that when we, put it in our policy manual, it'll be that same format of all the other policies that we have there. But I think you pulled it up, right? Okay.
yes. And your first read should have been the policy format from the.
That's what we have attached.
Yeah, what's in
Your
your
first
for
read.
this meeting is the policy.
But what I'm saying is, it doesn't look like our other, are you satisfied with the wording?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it looks like the other policies.
Okay, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Oh, okay.
So on June 10th, you received
I'm
something
looking
in the
at
format
this.
of, policy?
No, in board docs, it was attached.
Yeah, I'm looking at this as a table.
No, all I have is, I have the actual policy.
I don't have the actual policy.
What was there and what was there last year.
Okay, so you have what.
So what I'm doing is just providing some clarity and to entertain any concerns that were expressed, just to add credence to what was presented and you read on June 10th.
Okay.
And what happened is, so last board meeting, we first reading. But I asked my team to go back and do a side-by-side comparison of the current policy and the proposed policy, so that, you know, board members had questions about, well, what was there and, you know, what are you proposing now? Then they will be able to quickly answer some of those questions. So that is what Dr. Blunt has in a table format that the board members do not have. Our board members don't have it, and that's because of the timing of everything.
So maybe that is.
So are there big changes that are in that table format? I think the main thing is we just need to know what is different on this policy and what has changed, what is new.
The major difference is emphasis is placed on the Albany, Virginia plan and compliance with Virginia Code 22.1-254. In a snippet, it's the proposed plan just embraces reducing chronic absenteeism and providing students with equity in regards to make up work due to absences. There are some additional opportunities that students are not penalized for being absent from school. For example, tribal activities, 4-H activities, civic activities, and of course, I did mention that it is grade level specific, so college visits, of course, would not be used against the student. So again, basically, my presentation was simply to add clarity and provide an opportunity to entertain questions that you may have based on your first reading.
So you want to go through something?
Sure, if you all want to hear.
Or I mean, it sounds like the main thing is we've added the code in there, the Virginia code.
Yes.
We put that code in there to clarify that.
Yes.
Any other additions?
It is grade, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It is grade level specific. It is also written or framed so that there is greater school and home partnership or relationships. It also indicates, or it spells out who is responsible for ensuring that the school is notified if a student is going to be out and how much time they are given to make up work, and who serves as your point of contact.
Is that the presentation that Dr. Blunt is on the screen?
This is the entire draft with that compares the current policy to the proposed policy. You will see that there are 4 columns, and the first one identifies the grade level of the school. The second column is the current policy. The third column is the proposed policy, and the fourth column is just a comparison of the two, a snippet. And it continues. It addresses accountability, reasons for absences. It delineates the type of absences: excused, unexcused, chronic absence. And it also identifies reasons that will be considered an excused absence. There are additional absences that have been given, and they would be the 4-H participation, civic participation in tribal, nation, or tribal activities. It also indicates the steps that are taken to reduce chronic absenteeism, so that would address the truancy piece, and waivers. And it is time specific. When you continue, you will see that it goes into the secondary level, starting with middle. There are some similarities to high school level because there are middle school students who take credit-bearing classes. So with that in mind, there's a time frame for makeup work to acquire credit.
And I do have a copy of the policy, I apologize, I was reading the wrong page.
So, excuse me, if board members will refresh, it's now attached in board document.
Yeah, and I do have the policy, the student absence is excused, the leases regulations, just there.
So is it possible to bring this back again in August to give us a chance? Yeah, just to look over all of it and then bring it back so we don't have to rehash it all tonight.
And with that, the other question I would have is, we typically, utilize the VSBA policies, but then make adjustments to them, you know, as we need to make it, specific to our division. So we, of course, have a policy already existing that I understand we're trying to make some changes to, but if it can stay closely mirrored to that VSBA policy, because that's already been gone through by legal, everything there is specific. So I'm leery of going at creating policies that are outside of that framework.
I will note too that on the last slide or the last sheet of your handout, I did make reference and credits, and that's the Virginia Department of Education is where we pull the information from, as well as attendance matters. So it is in alignment with code and endorsed by the Virginia Department of Education.
So then we agree that we'll look at this again in August, and that it will be an update of our current policy using the same format of the current policy with the changes.
Right, so instead of doing a separate policy, we're gonna take our current policy, make the changes that we need to reference the code and to reference the, all the other. And then that way it's easier to go through and highlight for us real quickly, this is a change from the current, this is a change from the current. It's not as labor intensive.
I do want to say, Dr. Blunt, the attachment, now that I've got it, excellent work on delineating the two and putting some commentary in there. That's really helpful. Thank you. That was really great.
And I'd like to say, I agree with, Mr. Rogers, but I also like the part in, a policy that says, promotion requirements and how it specifies promotion to 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And that might be shifted over to the promotion policy. It's clear to parents, these are the requirements for promotion.
And I will say, the document and format that Dr. Blunt has, that we've attached with this particular policy, we have that format for the other ones as well, so we'll attach those for the board also. And what it boiled down to was, you know, you all had the first read of the policy, so the comparisons were kind of our cheat sheets, just in case you all had questions, but we'll share them with you all.
So, do we have a motion then that we will, have the attendance and makeup work policy, presented to us again in August in the format of our other policies, of the other policies in our policy manual? We have a motion by Ms. A second by Mr. Scott, that we will again, look at the attendance and makeup work policy at our August meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So now we're down to the Virginia High School League, membership application. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, we participate in 17 Virginia High School League sanctioned activities, and the membership application is enclosed. The total cost of membership is $3,485, and if the board decides that we will remain members of VHSL, we'll need to make that payment before August the 1st.
Do we have a motion to approve the Virginia High School League membership application?
So moved.
Have Have a motion by Ms. Bond, a second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the VSBA membership dues. We are members of the Virginia School Boards Association, and we do use the Virginia School Boards Association for training and for policy. So do we have a motion to approve the VSBA membership? We have a motion by Mr. Smith.
Sorry.
A second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the VSBA delegate and alternate delegate selection. Ms. Bond generally enjoys going to the VSBA delegate assembly, but that's the meeting in Williamsburg for VSBA as members come together, and then the members vote on the measures that VSBA will advance on behalf of of its membership. So Denise, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, it's actually every division, is represented in the room, and they bring up what their initiatives are, the things that they want to put into policy review. They send it back at a time, but, the delegate assembly session is just voting on those VSBA policies.
So you're willing to continue to be the delegate? So then, Ms. Bond will be our delegate. Is there a volunteer who will be our alternate delegate? Ms. Hobbs will be our alternate delegate, and you got that? Ms. Artis is writing that down. So do we have a motion then to approve Denise Bond as our delegate and Cassandra Hobbs as our alternate delegate to the VSBA Delegate Assembly that will take place in November at the VSBA conference in Williamsburg? We have a motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
A second by Mr. Rogers. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the VSBA Code of Conduct for School Board members. Hopefully you read over that. We do ask that school board members read those 12 statements and commit to adhering to the VSBA Code of Conduct for members, and we ask that you sign the VSBA Code of Conduct for that Ms. Artis will have. But any, well, I guess we need a motion to approve. We need a motion to agree that we will all sign the VSBA Code of Conduct. Was that your motion, Mr. Smith?
Was this similar to what we signed?
It's the same thing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So
That was my fault.
was that a motion, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
So we have a motion by Mr. Smith that we will each sign the VSBA Code of Conduct for school members. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Ms. Hobbs. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we will sign that Code of Conduct before we leave tonight. The next item is the proposal to replace some modular buildings at Southampton High School. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Melby is coming forward to talk a little bit about that. And what he'll discuss is us replacing 4 existing modular units that are currently at the high school with 2 modular units. So let's talk a little bit about the process that we use for
Yes, ma'am. Back again, issued a request for proposal in late May. Evaluated, we have 2 different companies that presented proposals. Box Modular out of Richmond, and another company out of New Jersey that escapes me right now. But the Box Modular proposal, it would provide us with 2 units with 2 classrooms each to replace the existing 4 classrooms that are outside, and these units would have restrooms in them. The current units do not. If we approve tonight to move forward to purchase these units, they should. Last time I spoke to the gentleman from Box, we could have them in before mid-August, have them installed.
What are those currently?
There's been a wide variety of use over the years, from straight mobile classrooms from the high school to CSEP has been using them recently, ISI, variety of instructional.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I had two questions. The first is, would these be connected to like the safety systems that are in the building? So things like fire alarm, things like phones, and the PA system, if there was an alert that had to come out for safety reasons.
Yes, we will develop and install each of those.
And second question was, how do we plan to pay for it?
All right. So, when we did the onset of this, we reached out and we worked with CSEP, where we have the ability to apply for long-range project funds, and we were awarded $345,000 from CSEP to pay for these units, and then also the work that's going on now to get these units out, for the electrical work to hook the new units up, and for the plumbing that needs to go in.
So there's dedicated money already sitting there
Yes.
waiting for this. Okay.
Yes.
And it's been there for years, it's just now is the perfect time for us.
Not in our coffers, it's been with CSEP.
Understood. We've got money to pay for the project to support what we're doing.
So I guess that our motion would be to use CSEP funding to replace the modular buildings at Southampton High School. We use CSEP money, I assume we're gonna use that space for CSEP. Correct.
You said that there's additional work-related costs for electricity and plumbing, along with the technology, that kind of thing, so all of those would still fall under that $345,000?
Prospectively, yes. If anything would go outside of our construction fund, we'll be able to cover that.
So do we have a motion? We have a motion by Ms. Bond that we would use CSEP funding of approximately $300,000 to replace modular units at the high school. Do we have a second? Second. A second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion on the motion?
I seconded that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have a second by Dr. Tyndall. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next item on the agenda is the kindergarten readiness program and Virginia language and literacy screener system. And I'm not sure it's the system. I think they're asking us to pay for these teachers to have a substitute one day so they can do screening. But I'm sure you want to elaborate.
Yes, sure. So, last year, it was recommended that our teachers come in early so that they could conduct a screening for kindergartners, because it's just so labor intensive and time consuming. And it's difficult for the teachers to do this during the normal school day when they are trying to monitor the students as well as, conduct it. So what we are asking is that our teachers be permitted to come in for 2 days this summer, and that we pay our teachers $30 an hour, which is the equivalent of about $240 per day, to come in and conduct this assessment. And in addition to that, we are also asking that our teachers be allotted a substitute while they are present, so that they too, during the school year, can do what they need to do as it relates to the assessment. So 1 day in the fall and then 1 day in the spring, where teachers will be at work, but they'll also have a substitute teacher assigned. Yeah. And we're looking at about 30 teachers.
So the first part of it is to bring in, 25 teachers. We're bringing the pre-K, the kindergarten teachers, and the reading specialists. workshop? Is that what you're saying?
For 2 days. They'll be there on the 19th and the 20th, from 8:30 to 4:30. And we'll pay them $240. And the total cost will be $8,160. So that's the first part.
And then bringing the kids, the pre-K, kindergarten kids in all those days.
That's correct, yes.
And we did that last year, and it worked very well.
It really
The
did.
staff actually appreciated it a lot, because it's difficult for them
Oh,
to
yeah,
do this
I-
during the day.
Yeah.
So they were very appreciative that we allowed that to happen.
Then it's one day during the school year that you bring in a substitute.
2 days, one day in the fall and one day in the summer.
So would you make a motion?
So moved.
So we have a motion by Ms. Hobbs, do we have a second? By Ms. Bond to approve the pay for the kindergarten readiness screening. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have a use of facilities request, Dr. Shannon.
Yes, ma'am. The Franklin Southampton Concert Association requested the auditorium at Southampton High School on Friday, September the 20th, from 3:30 to 9:30 p.m. They will host a concert by a male quartet entitled Decades of Love. And they have provided proof of insurance, which is obtained through U.S. liability. Do approve, okay. And yeah, they are requesting that the fee is waived because they are a nonprofit organization. And they indicated that the symphony concert is free to the public, and student membership is only $10 a year.
What are you recommending, Doug?
I actually recommend that that they pay the $58, which is the nonprofit fee. So they just pay the 5%, which is $58, instead of the $580 that someone else would pay if they were not a nonprofit.
On the breakdown where the fees for usage is listed, it's got an incorrect date there. It's got October 27th instead of September 20th. So we just need to correct the date on there.
I see that. Thank you.
Sure. And then I make a motion for you to approve it.
Second. Ms. Bond, a second by Mr. Rogers. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item, Mr. Rogers, I can't understand my own writing, but you had an item L about, I just wrote down meeting.
Yeah, I just had to go back to make sure I knew which one it was. Last month when we met to discuss, and we discussed the budget and the reductions that we had, one of the suggestions that was on the floor was that we designate perhaps or recommend a quarterly meeting where 2 of our representatives could meet with 2 representatives from the board of supervisors with the express purpose of trying to increase communication so that they can understand their needs going throughout the year, and we can also maybe understand some of the things that are pressures on the county's budget. So we didn't revisit that and actually talk about it after we visited the budget, so I wanted to bring it back up here with my recommendation, or the motion I guess I would be putting on the floor would be that we identify 2 representatives that would meet quarterly with 2 representatives from the Board of Supervisors, should they be willing to do that, to discuss budget priorities.
What's the board thinking about this, a quarterly meeting?
I agree, and would be willing to be one of the board members that meets.
What's the purpose of the meeting?
To discuss budget priorities that we would be aware of, as well as to understand the Board of Supervisors' perspective on budget limitations in regards to the funding they have available for.
Who's going to create the agenda?
I think it should be a collaborative agenda. I think it should be shared agenda items.
So to give a historical perspective, in recent years, we have had, during the budget process, had liaison meetings with the board of supervisors as part of that budget process. We did not have that this year, but at least with those meetings, there is a concrete purpose and an agenda of, this is why we will be meeting with them, is to go over some of that information. And that also was supposed to be a two-way street. We're there to kind of give them a heads up, but then there was also supposed to be them providing us some insight as to what the county budget was looking like and what the funds were going to look like. The previous year, we didn't get any insight into that. So I don't know that I see the purpose of a quarterly meeting to talk about budget. If we were to look at implementing something that's a liaison meeting during the budget process, I could see that if it had a clear agenda. But again, because there's a time of year that we go through that process. On a quarterly basis, the budget is already set. We're functioning within the budget and given.
Yeah, I think a good example of why a quarterly might be helpful is when we were awarded some grant funds for catering. That would be a clear place where you could begin discussion as soon as the grant was awarded, so that some of their questions could be answered. We could understand that they've got funds to match and go along with that, to talk through some shared plans and visions. So I agree. I think liaising during budget planning session, I think, is definitely something that we should consider. I do think there's value to forming some of those relationships and some shared understanding of the two budgets and how they're being vetted. I think this year is a very good example of our current process is not working.
But, and I guess my reluctance truly is that if you have the meeting, we need an agenda, and we need for the board of supervisors to understand that it's not for them to ask us, what do we do with $2.98 for lunch? It's not for them to ask, how many LGBTQ students do you have? It's not for them to ask, why did you spend money on ABC? Because we're not going to share that information. So so we wanted to have a conversation about the shared vision of Southampton County in terms of providing an outstanding education for students of the county, what that looks like. I could see having a meeting to talk about our shared vision and establishing this shared vision of what public education in Southampton County should look like. What I would not like to see happen is a question and answer session that we go in and they want to know, well, how many chairs do you have in auditorium? Why do they need to know?
Told by so-and-so in the community, so we want to validate whether or not that's true, that it turns into more of an inquisition.
Yeah, so
And I've been in those liaison meetings, and that is unfortunately what they had turned into in the past 2 or 3 years prior to that.
yes, I've typically handled that by establishing what would be a charter. Basically, this is what the committee meets about and discusses. These are the parameters are included in that charter, and that becomes a charter that would have to be blessed by both boards in order for it to continue to go on. So it basically lays out that it's not a question and answer session about $2.98 lunches or whatever the other example was, but it's to discuss priorities in budget, barriers to funding, pressures at sites, new funding that's awarded, whatever we would determine would be. But I think that you're right in saying that a scope, a properly scoped and adhered to agenda and mission for that should be outlined before we do that. I agree with that.
Both boards are put in place by the state code. Board of Supervisors have been given the obligation and the right to tax citizens. Now, tied to that process, they have to then produce systems, services, and products that service those people. Now, the reason why the General Assembly gave us a school board, because the Board of Supervisors, if they had that attached to their duty, it would be non-functional. So you have a school board who does not have taxing authority designed to develop the best possible school system for not only the students, but the citizens of Southampton, of the respective county. Now, if we all understand that process, then it should be kind of clear that the school board have to rely on a board of supervisors to fund it. If everybody did their job, we wouldn't be here. This past school year, in the budget process, we were underfunded. We're still underfunded. We weren't level funded, we were underfunded. Their finance person had to tell them that, look, the state says that you have to give your school board a certain amount of money in order for them to be able to access money from the state. They had to be told that. That's kind of ludicrous to me, that we have a board of supervisors that have not taken advantage of any kind of educational process to learn exactly what they're supposed to do. And me having two liaison people from this board meeting with two of their board, I don't think that's more correct.
But what I think
The
might
image
be
of the
helpful.
purpose, and the image or the purpose of the meeting in their eyes is to show the taxpayers and citizens that they're whipping that school board in shape, and we're gonna get control over it, we're gonna rein it back in. And again, to Mr. Smith's credit, we are two separate boards with two separate charges and two separate functions. At some point, there has to be a level of trust that we are entrusted with the education of children. We gave you the budget, we told you what it was gonna take to fund the budget. There weren't hidden things within the budget, we're not embezzling $3 million every year doing this, every bit of it was to educate children. And to feel there's a certain piece of it when you start saying now we're gonna be quarterly to tell you what we're doing. Come to our meeting, if you wanna know what we're doing, come to our meeting. It's not a hidden fact. I mean, I get it. I understand your concept, but there's also the flip side to that of it's to give that vision or impression of we're going to start controlling the school district.
Well, we don't have to answer questions that are outside the boundaries of what would be applied in that scope, but I get how it could easily, I get the trepidation of how it could easily devolve into something that is not productive toward collaboration, which is what I think is intended for the two separate boards, that there should be a collaboration, understanding how you reach those shared common goals that each board is required to do. So my main concern, and I'm open to other proposals, and I think this was the one that had come up last time we talked, is that if we continue to do the same thing and expect different results, that is the definition of insanity. And I would like to make sure that we at least try to force the hand to get a different result, because I'm concerned that if we don't do anything differently, we'll end up in the same place next year. And I don't want to be in a place where I'm trying to figure out how we again cut $1 million from a budget that's already $3 million underfunded.
So maybe a starting point would be, you mentioned perhaps coming up with some kind of charter or some kind of document. If you could draft some kind of document about the purpose of the meeting and how the meetings would go, and then we could share that with the Board of Supervisors, see if they would be willing to meet under those conditions. Because once before, when we tried to meet and we wanted to have a facilitator to facilitate the meeting between the two boards, the Board of Supervisors would not agree to a meeting with the facilitator. So we made all these plans, and again, wanted a facilitator from their organization to facilitate the meeting, and they said no, they wouldn't do it. So if you would write up something, you know, so that we can at least share with them to say, and quarterly might be a bit much, but to say, you know, we like, you know, a proposal that we would meet, but these would be the parameters, these would be the guidelines, because we do need a shared vision of public education in Southampton County, and I think the board of supervisors need to understand that having an outstanding education system is something that they should aspire to, because they owe it to the people of the county to fund public education and make sure we have, you know, a sound educational system.
And they also needed to do their job, which is to bring in business and industry to support a tax base. So in order to do that, you have to have a quality school system that businesses are gonna look at and say, we're willing to come here because we know we've got a workforce that's gonna be, you know, trained and ready to go.
I don't think that the meeting, I understand the budget part of it, and we're not answering questions about how do we spend this $5. But in my mind, it wouldn't only serve to answer budget questions. It would be, like we discussed last month, an opportunity for us to share things that are going on with them, that, you know, we're.
But why can't they read like every other citizen to know what's going on? I guess I don't understand why, if we have leaders in the county who should want to have an excellent education system, that should be their goal, because they're using taxpayer money. So why would they not aspire to having an outstanding education system? So why do we need to go in and say, well, you know, you need a school council because this is what they do?
Well, because I think being on the board and knowing what we know about how things are going is not what the general public, including the board of supervisors, understands. I mean, we've seen just since January, misunderstandings from citizens and that kind of thing. And so, no, I don't want it to turn into an inquisition where they're saying, well, why did you do this and why did you do that? But I think that with the answer of some very generalized questions, they would understand better the going on in the building. And not to justify a budget, or, you know, not just to justify a budget, but would give them an opportunity to have two-way communication. What communication do we do with the board of supervisors right now?
I go to their meetings. And they can come to ours, and I talk to my representative on the board.
But that's not communication between the two boards, that's attending each other's meetings. So
You know,
if we set this up with a charter to spell out, this is what we're gonna do, and this is what we're not gonna do.
But I guess getting back to my position is, we need to see if they're willing to do that. You know, because before, when we presented them with an option of having a meeting with the facilitator, they said no.
But my understanding was that meeting was, they were to put their questions and we were to put ours, and nothing else was going to.
But that's not true, so you had a misunderstanding. It was a meeting that was supposed to take place with the facilitator to discuss public education in Southampton County, with the facilitator from their organization, because we wanted the two boards to work together. They said no, they didn't like the facilitator.
Why we need a facilitator?
Because some people on the board of supervisors monopolize conversations.
You gotta understand, some of us have already sat in some of these meetings. I'm gonna be 100% honest. We have sat in some of these meetings. I have sat in one that was supposed to be a budget meeting, and I got lectured on what we're supposed to be doing with children in COVID, where we can put them, what buildings we can use. There's a building at the fairgrounds that we could be educating children in.
Right.
Okay, no, we can't, because it doesn't have a fire system. It doesn't have the security that we need. But that turned into a 20-minute sidebar that was them telling us, this is how you need to do education.
Right.
So let's back up and ask the question, are they meeting with any other portions of the county? Is social services being asked to meet with them quarterly? Is the sheriff's department being asked to meet with them and tell them what goes on in the sheriff's department so that they understand it? Who else is being held to that standard?
So they're not asking us to do this. They're not saying we need to do this in order to give you the money. And I would be willing to bet that there is regular communication between the board of supervisors and some of these other boards and that kind of.
But do they have open meetings with their representatives? You know, so are they meeting with the clerk's office or with the,
Quarterly meeting with them to get an update on what's happening within their organization.
but I think a start would be, you know, a middle ground on this would be if you write up something, and then we could, see if they would be interested in participating under such conditions. And I think that would be a start.
Yeah, I'm happy to draft something for our board to review to see if we have any interest in trying to engage them with that. So
Right.
everybody would have then the option to say, yes, this makes sense to move forward, or give feedback and say, no, this doesn't make sense. And
Right, so would you please
I will. Yep.
do that? And then I think that would be the start, and then we can, you know, go from there. Because you're right, I mean, you know,
It would be beneficial to have that good working relationship would be beneficial. None of us doubted that. Where we're at is maybe if you can draft something that will then start to lay the groundwork of the initial meetings are more about building relationships and trust. That's the whole crux of where we're at right now is we've got to come up with an avenue to build relationships and trust. It's not about control, it's not about us having to answer questions for them, vice versa, it's just about relationship.
Yeah, I'll, and if there's feedback from the board, if there's something that you want to include, you guys have, I mean, feel free to share it if you want, but I'll have it drafted before that.
okay, thank you. And you had an item, M?
Yep. All right, so, organizational meeting date, so I still have a concern that by doing our organizational meeting in July and with the change in what all of our effective terms are, it puts us in an awkward spot for something to happen, such as if Dr. Goodwin was up for, if her seat was up for election this year, and we appointed her as the board chair and she did not fill that position, we would be forced to reorganize at that point. We can realign the organizational meeting to fit with the terms, or fit with our terms on the board. And it would alleviate that problem and make it a much cleaner process, in my opinion. And so, I'm putting forth the recommendation that we move to January 9th.
And of course, my position is that the reorganization would have better aligns with the school year and with education. And in the case of a person whose term is ending, you wouldn't have to vote for that person to be chair. I mean, so since chairperson is an elected position, and we elect our own chair, so you would not have to elect the person whose term is ending. You just wouldn't vote for them. So that then they wouldn't be chair. So that would not ever become an issue because you wouldn't have to vote for the person. But I think it would be disruptive to the enterprise of education to reorganize in January because the school year, contracts, everything that a school does is based on a school year, not a calendar year. But I think Ms. Bowen's about to say something.
I agree. I think that the organizational meeting works better to do it in July simply because it follows the school year. The things that are going to take place, you're going to have budget committees, you're going to have representatives to see stuff. All of those things are done within a school year. There may come a time, you're right, with elections as things move on, that we may have to in January say, okay, we've got to appoint a new chair or a new vice chair. Something happens. And I think that for that to be the one-off and us have to do it, I think makes more sense to me than changing the organization away from the school year, calendar school year.
But there are also, in the organizational meeting, there are also delegates and representatives of other boards and that kind of thing that then as you have new board members coming in January, they have no opportunity to be on any of those boards.
Not until July.
Until July. And like Mr. Rogers said, if, that it made sense to do it in July when new board members were joining in January. So if all of our new board members from now on are going to be January start dates, then.
And I would argue the fact that as a new board member, it takes a little bit of time to learn what you're doing and what the role is, so that actually builds in a really nice 6-month period of being able to do the training, do new board member training, understand the funding, understand the process.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that they would necessarily take on that role, but you know, to what Mr. Rogers was saying as well, that, you know, I mean, so that would mean, like for the chairperson or the vice chair, any of those other things that we were voting on, that we voted on today, that if any of the people that we voted do not win their election or, you know, don't run or whatever, then we're having to redo this again in January anyway. And that, if we didn't vote for them, that would mean that the year that you run for election, we shouldn't name you as chair for
That's
that
right.
year in July.
You should not. I'm agreeing. If I'm up for election, I should not run for an office, and I think that we have to trust our colleagues to be that professional. If I know my term is ending, I would not run for chair or vice chair. So no, I think that you would take a leadership role. You don't do it the year that you know your term is ending. I think that's what a professional would do.
True, but, and I mean, I agree, and I appreciate that, but to me, it's not just chair and vice chair, it's all of the other things that we vote on. The delegates and the representatives to CSEP, and to the governor's school, and all of those other
But
representatives.
you don't vote on those. The chair makes the appointment.
Right, but if we're going to do it so that the chair and the vice chair and the things that we do vote on, you're not serving that role that year, then you should also not be serving a role on any of our other boards. They should not be appointed the year of their election. Because that would be the same thing, that would be disrupting in the middle of the year if they're not elected.
I really think it's easier to still keep it in accordance and in alignment with the calendar school year. With the understanding, we know that we may have to, at some points, have a smaller organizational meeting in January if somebody doesn't see, you know, election, or somebody needs to come off for some reason. I think, and the Code of Virginia allows us to do it either way.
Right.
Keep in mind, most of the school divisions now within Virginia are elected, but the code allows for it to be either way. That's because there's people still understand the concept of you're running a business on a calendar year. Our calendar year is July to June.
Right.
So,
And I don't disagree, and, you know, like you said, it would cause a disruption, potentially, if we did it in January. But to that end, then those people that are appointed to these boards should not be appointed if it's their election year, because then that's also, you know, then I start out and I'm on this, you know, the board for, sorry, but, you know, and I'm on the board for CSEP from July until December, but I'm not reelected, then we have to have something new in January that doesn't know what's going on during that school year.
So what would be different than having somebody come in January and proceed? They're already in the middle of their year, right now we're doing our appointments in January, so we're sending somebody new that hadn't been there the first half.
No, so that's what I'm saying, so if we kept it with the July, then the people that are appointed for those roles should not be appointed as their election. So that you don't run the risk of disrupting something in the middle.
So, Mr. Rogers, did you want to put that as a motion, or do you want to just end with this discussion?
I'll put it as a motion. I make a motion that we move our organizational meeting from the month of July to the month of January to align with board term.
I have a motion by Mr. Rogers. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Dr. Kendall. Any discussion on the motion? So, we will do a roll call vote. So, Goodwin? No. Smith? No. Bun? No. Rogers?
Yes.
Scott? No. Kendall?
Yes.
No. So, we will keep the reorganization meeting in July. We're down to the instructional report. The instructional report was included in your package, and for the sake of time, I truly think that you can just look at it. Is there anything outstanding there, Dr. Shannon, that we need to? No. Okay, so just read the instructional report. The maintenance and transportation report was included there.
Now, we do have one thing that I do think Mr. Bill needs to talk about there, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Would you come and talk about the outsourcing possibility?
All right, so I do believe it was at our May meeting that we first announced that we would be putting out a RFP for maintenance and custodial work. We have conducted that. We've reviewed the two companies that did submit proposals, and we would like to move forward and engaging in conversation with SSC is the name of the company that presented the best option at this point. But we would like to not enter into any kind of agreement at this point, but to discuss with them further options to make fiscally make sense for us.
Sure, I truly think you need to come back to us when you have some details from them and some costs. I mean, because.
So the initial.
That would be an action line. Go ahead.
Yes. So the initial piece that came from SSC, the annual contracted rate of $2,079,967. Right now, our maintenance and operation budget is $2,001,573, or a difference of $78,403. So that's where sitting down with them at the next phase to discuss how we can get that number closer to where our budgetary numbers at, and discuss how the next step would look so that we could utilize this program from SSC to take care of our buildings and to have environments within our educational buildings that are conducive to teaching and learning for all of our students and staff throughout the division. It was just kind of, it was an informal or informational piece that we're going to move forward with the RFP process to get to the next level of discussions with SSC.
Questions, comments, Mr. Rogers?
Would those people take the place of people we already have employed, or are these filling
All of our
gaps?
people retired. We set it out as another, all of our people retired.
But you said maintenance and custodial.
Maintenance and custodial. So anyone that is currently on our payroll, they would, SSC would offer them employment. Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha, okay.
They would be made whole, they would maintain their same pay level, benefits, all of that would maintain the same with SSC.
And you picked SSC because if you haven't done the RFP yet, how do you?
No, we did the RFP and received two offers. The two offers that came in was SSC at the, like I said, 2.079, and then HES came in at 2.498 million. Those are the two companies that responded to our RFP. And we did have a mandatory pre-proposal meeting where there were 5 different companies that attended. Of those 5, the 2 presented proposals to us. And now that we get the numbers in and SSC, we can work towards the next step with them of negotiation and see if we can get to a spot where we can get to an agreement to present to the board for your approval.
I think it would be appropriate for you guys to finish the procurement process that includes the negotiation of a contract from the best vendor, and then bring forward to us. I appreciate the information on that. I think then bring forward to us what the recommendation is, whether to move forward or not, based off what you're able to negotiate the contracts.
Okay, thank you. So we're down to student enrollment. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, we currently have, as of last month, 2,535 students enrolled. The winner of the student
the only matter from the board is the appointment of board members to regional boards. Ms. Oris Lane is currently our representative at Appomattox Regional Governor School. But Dr. Tyndall, would you be willing to serve as an alternate? And at Governor School of the Arts, Mr. Smith is currently the representative. Ms. Bunn, would you be willing to take that on and have Mr. Smith as the alternate?
Sure. Is that a once a month meeting, is that right?
Yes, but sometimes it's virtual. And then for CSEP, we have Ms. Cassandra Hobbs is our representative for CSEP, and Mr. Smith is the alternate. And then for WHRO, Mr. Rogers, would you be our representative to WHRO?
Yes.
Okay, and then, I'll be the alternate there. And then on the disciplinary committee, Mr. Scott, will you continue to serve on the disciplinary committee? Okay, and I'll serve on that committee also. And the clerk, Ms. Artis, will make sure that the Governor's School, Appomattox Governor's School, CSEP, WHRO, that they know who our representatives are for the 24-25 school year, and that you will be getting the information from the boards.
So, Dr. Goodwin, for the student disciplinary committee, that would be yourself and Mr. Scott, so you would actually be a representative, but you still need an alternate for that.
Oh, thank you. So who would be willing to serve as an alternate on the school discipline committee? I think before, Mr. Smith, you agreed to do that as an alternate. Would you do that again? Okay, so Mr. Smith would be the alternate. Because we do usually meet during the day. So Smith would be the alternate, Scott and Goodwin would be the representatives. So pursuant to section 2.2-3711.
We have one other item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That we have to be under there.
Yeah, forgot to write that on my list. Yes.
So I wanted to discuss currently our practices that on the broadcast of the board meeting, the public comment period is not included in that broadcast. I'm not sure what the reasons for that decision were, and so I wanted to bring it to the board tonight to discuss with my proposal that, the reason I'm asking is I think it's appropriate for the public comment period to be broadcast just as the rest of the meeting is. It's a part of our meeting. If there's concerns around the information shared, those can always be discussed within our meeting. But it doesn't seem in good faith to the county to leave that part out when we have citizens, including some of our students that come to present information to the board. Feel like it should be shared with on the broadcast as everything else is. So that's just
What's the thinking of other board members?
I agree. I don't think it builds trust between us and the rest of the citizens of our broadcast.
What's your thinking, Ms. Bunn? Mr. Smith? Well, Ms. Bunn is the thing.
Still process.
I think that, those people who signed to have public comment would address that. We have other things to do to the public. I think we should continue.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Smith. The public comment period is something that we do voluntarily, and the people are here to speak to the board, not to speak to the community, to the virtual audience online. So they get their opportunity to speak to us, which is what they say they want to do. Not speak to the community at large.
Well,
What's your
because
thinking?
we don't respond during public comment too, it also makes it difficult if there's something in public comment that is not necessarily factual. it takes until the next meeting that we're able to say, hey, we need to put this on the agenda, because now we need to discuss this, so people understand that. It's already been shared and broadcast.
Mr. Scott? Ms. Hall?
In listening, I didn't have an opinion, but in listening to the comments from those who are experienced, who have been on the board for years, it may present a bigger problem than, we don't need to stroke people. So if they're presenting something that's, going to stir up confusion, we don't really want that aired unless we have to have it aired. We're not obligated to air that, we don't. But we still address situations that come up, that they prevent, if there's something that needs to be dealt with.
Also gives the public an opportunity to know that it's been brought to the board. And
But if they have if they have that same concern, they can bring it to the board. So,
So you want to vote, Mr. Rogers, or is it discussion?
I didn't put it as an action item, I just wanted to have a, conversation. I think efforts at transparency and making sure that we're building public trust are a major role and responsibility that we have as board members, and I think by blacking out that section of the meeting, I don't think it does that and addresses that goal, and I understand the concerns with misinformation. I may ask for an action item at some point, but I do think, the other thing I think I would say is that there's ways to address misinformation through standing agenda items as appropriate, if they need to be there, in action items that might include the ability to correct any information that was put out inappropriately. So I think that there are measures that the board can take to have an agenda item available to them to be able to address that information publicly, which is important not just for the virtual audience, but also for the audience that's in attendance in the room as well, that we don't want to contribute to that spread. So, yeah, but no, that's why I'm bringing it as an action item. I didn't think it was appropriate to.
So pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 and 2 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, the board upon a motion and second will convene on a closed session to discuss personnel appointments, resignations, retirements, and compensation, intra-district student transfers, out-of-district student admissions, superintendent evaluation, I think that's it. Yeah, so do we have a motion to close session? Was that a motion by Mr. Rogers? Scott? Okay. And second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So at the conclusion of the closed session, the board will return to this area.